you have to think the path to the playoffs obviously gets easier here. Hayward's out a minimum 4 weeks. There's 5 weeks left in the season. That's a minimum 4 weeks. This is one of those, like, we'll check him at 4 weeks and be evaluated. It really sounds like his season is done.
Which is
Regular
crazy because
season, at least.
he didn't even look to be in that much pain. Like,
No.
going up. Like, it was almost like he was. I felt he was almost like gonna walk it off, and now it's like, oh,
what's a sprained foot, John? You're the closest to MD here. What is that?
It all depends what kind of
sprain. That's true.
Midfoot, where it's sprained. I didn't see what it was here, but you know.
What is it? Foot muscles?
Huh?
Foot muscles? It's not an ankle.
No, it's the same thing. It's just there's different parts of the.
The foot has a billion bones in it.
It's a million different things that you could sprain
That's a fact,
there.
by the way. There's a million bones in the foot.
That's facts.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not spraining.
I know
bone.
a couple doctors.
There's a ton of ligaments and other things in there too. I mean, but it's very similar to ankle injury. Sometimes they call it foot, and it's really ankle. It's just which part is it? But I mean, you have those midfoot sprains, which really mess people up. And 4-week designation right away means they're pretty sure that
he'll be evaluated in 4 weeks, is what they said.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I mean, it looks like this is one of those like longer term situations.
So that leads me to my question: did the Celtics make the right decision?
Well, that's what's fair to talk about. And we were talking about on the thread, like, at what point do you stop saying bad luck and just say brittle?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a fair question, and it drives a couple of my friends wild because I like to play devil's advocate, and they were huge, like, you have to re-sign Hayward, and honestly, it was a runaway that the Celtics made the wrong decision, right, leading up to like 2 days ago. But now it's like, okay, well, the reason why Celtics fans are going crazy and why Celtics fans weren't even really that upset was because, majority of Hayward's career was spent either injured or coming back from an injury or not fully there, but, working through it. And to see him, thrive in Charlotte, that was like, wow, that's the Gordon Hayward that everyone thought the Celtics were getting and never actually got. And then he goes down with the foot injury and like, okay, well, that's the Gordon Hayward that Celtics fans know, because is it bad luck, or is it, like John said, is it that he's kind of brittle, or that, doesn't take much for something to, go wrong in his body? It didn't, again, I mean, it's a lower body fluky kind of, ankle/foot.
He stepped on a foot, you said, right?
He stepped on Miles Turner's foot.
Miles, of all people.
Which is hilarious.
Again, this is...
Really slipped that in there today, too. You see that?
This is almost all bad luck for him. It's just like uncanny luck.
Is it?
I mean, could you say the same for Langford with everything he's gone through?
Mean, like I said, so to me, things like Romeo, wrists and pinkies and whatever it was, those are flukier than rolling ankles and soft tissue injuries and things like that. That's usually something that is recurring. When people have those, you see them have them a lot of times. Like Gordon sprained that foot now twice. I mean, obviously that freakish break a few years ago is a different situation, but now that's twice on that ankle.
Broken hand.
And you know what? I mean, look, I mean, they weaken, like once you sprain that stuff, we've all played some level of basketball. You sprain your ankle once, twice, 3 times. It's just never is right. It just keeps getting worse and worse. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know with Gordon at this point. I mean, I feel like little things like what did he break a hand running into a screen? Like some of that stuff's finger. A little fluky, but I mean it's basketball. You're going to roll these things. You're going to roll ankles all the time, out on the court there.
He should be heavily taping his ankles, and he should be wearing high tops.
High tops to the knees.
Double lace. He should look like Cornette out there, but like times 2 with like with the support.
I mean, the thing about Hayward though, if the Celtics sign him and this happens, Celtics fans they'd be livid. They would be livid.
Well, that's the thing. It makes you feel better. Can I
look at the stat line?
Yeah. Can I point one thing out, by the way? As we talk, just when we're talking about Gordon Hayward, it's really interesting. I know he started off the season kind of, on fire, and he had, a couple of big point, games, and it was like, okay, he's unlocked his inner self. I mean, at the end of the day, if you go through the stats, he's averaging 34 minutes a game versus 33.5 with Boston. Okay. He's getting 15 shots up a game versus 13.5 with Boston. His field goal percentage is slightly down. His 3-point percentage is slightly up. His usage is roughly the same. He's really almost this. His rebounding is down. His assists are identical. He's literally.
Then when? Last season?
This last season with this season is
Well, he was
really
good last
statistically
season.
not that far off.
He
So
was
it
good
is
last
interesting.
That's a great point by Jimmy. It shows too, like how great he was last year and how underrated that was.
But the narrative that leaving for
he
Charlotte
got hurt again, though.
But I'm saying the narrative that leaving for Charlotte unlocked him is a fallacy. He's pretty much been there what he was here. And so this notion that I get to go there and be more of myself, he's not really doing anything different than he did last year.
There's two parts of it, though. I mean, being the front man isn't just about him taking a million shots. Like, he's setting up other teammates. He's the guy on the ball all the time there. And you look at the numbers, his importance there. He's missed 4 games. They're 1-3. Now, tonight, you add that in. They're 1-4. Like, he's been an important piece there on both ends of the floor and within the offense outside of scoring. He's just been a floor general for them, frankly.
Again, that's fine, but he was here at the times when he was out. He was always a secondary ball handler on this team. He was expected to do a lot with the ball and to be a playmaker as well. So again, I think it's fine if he's got a little bit more responsibility and or respect from his teammates for his role there. His overall, what it's doing for him and his career and who he is and getting to be the true best version of himself is a pretty marginal difference. So I don't know.
What's his percentages? He's probably like 50%.
No, like I said, his field goal percentage slightly down from 50 to high 40s, and his 3-point percentage from 38 to 40. It's pretty close, but I mean, one and a half shot attempts more, and every other rebounding up, assists flat, almost everything is flat across the board, and minutes about the same. So he's being pretty much. I mean, it wasn't like he was not used here. I mean, this is who. Let's put it this way.
This is like what
it's the narrative.
He was a 26, 27 point per game scorer, whatever he was in Utah, and that the Celtics suppressed that. He's pretty much this guy, and he was this guy for the Celtics last year, which is a really good player.
I just think when he talked about being a featured player and wanting to be that, I just think it was more about the narrative than anything. It wasn't about the production. It wasn't about the role. It was about the fact that everyone was saying this is Tatum and Brown's team. And when Gordon Hayward first signed here, it was
too many wings.
He was supposed to be the one that's going to lead the obviously him and Kyrie, or originally it was supposed to be him and Isaiah Thomas, but it was supposed to be him and Kyrie. He got hurt when he came back. Even as he was working his way back, the narrative started to change. Okay, now Kyrie's, he's the mentor for these young rising superstars. It wasn't Kyrie and Hayward are the mentors. No, just Kyrie. And as he's trying to get himself back, he finally got himself back, put together his best season in Boston last year. But again, what's everyone remember? It's what have you done for my Celtics fans, right? What have you done for us lately, right? You got hurt in the postseason. In the postseason, you fought through, but obviously he wasn't the same player. Obviously, you forget what happened because 2 months went by, from the NBA shutting down. So it was a lot going on. But again, at the end of the day, I just think it's the narrative. He doesn't like being that guy. He doesn't want to be known as the guy who's a side to the two rising superstars.
And let's be real, it was about that money, the 120 million. That was the big one.
You get the bag. Yes. Get the bag.
If that's the case, everything is garbage in terms of what you say. This whole I went there for blah blah blah. It's nothing. If Boston wasn't prepared to offer the same thing, then it's all nonsense. It's interesting to me that we've accepted that narrative when at the end of the day, he's pretty much the same guy on a worse team.
Well,
he and Terry share the load. It's not like he's clearly the one. And I got news for you, buddy. LaMelo's the headliner there when he's healthy, so you're already not the number one guy. You're about to cede control of the team to a kid, even younger than the ones who you didn't want to bring it to before.
Isn't that
to
something?
A ball, brother.
Yeah.
You never know.
Nonetheless. So good luck with that
contract, and he's like, "Hey, respect on paper, I'll take it."
I'll tell you though, it can be a breath of fresh air though to not only leave the Boston market, which was probably tough on him, but also to just kind of be on this young team without a lot of expectation, building something, playing a fun style. Like things got a little rigid starting last year here in Boston with the way they were playing offense. So there was probably a million different reasons that went into this, but at the end of the day, that money was the big one. And then everything else was secondary for that. Like they offered the most money by far, and that's what he took. So that's what it came down to.
They offered him the most money. They offered him a much bigger role than the Celtics could have offered him. Whether or not they're using him similarly or not, I guarantee you that was a huge part of it, was the role. And, Michael Jordan selling you on your role in the organization is probably something that's pretty difficult to turn down. And again,
and the cheese shops.
The
Charlotte's
cheese,
got so much cheese.
absolutely. And then
He
I
got
think
some of that cheddar. That's all
I
he
think
needed. You
I
know,
think
that's it.
I think a fresh start was probably something that Hayward really was looking for.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
his Boston career was probably one that he'd like to move on from for a number of reasons. You know, health.
We,
I think he felt disrespected, not just from the fans, but maybe from people within the team. Maybe he felt like his role was just like you guys said. He's kind of
You
a
mean
bit of
Mr. Education Reform?
side
Mr.
piece.
Education Reform might have felt a little out of place.
Is that what you getting at?
Maybe he did.
He rode the Kurt Schilling train out of town.
he said something about the
I'm just
injury.
thinking about the first day. Hold on. I'm just thinking about the first day when they're all putting the jerseys on and Gore's just like.
thought it was-
Everyone's posing. And Hayward's like, I'll see you guys later. All right.
He thought it was the perfect choice. And he said something about the way the injury was handled too, Joe Swayer. He alluded to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That comes into play too. It feels like
Yeah.
remember when he left the bubble and went to his own doctor instead of going to get treatment in Boston? That was kind of a weird thing too.
He went to Indy. Yeah.
Yeah, so all that stuff came together, and again, I think we can all agree, even if they offered 120 million, he was probably never coming back to Boston. So it's all water under the bridge, and we can talk about Turner or the TPE or Fournier and all this stuff, but we all agree they probably should have brought him back, and we also all agree, I think, that there was no chance he was coming back under any circumstance. That makes it a little easy.
Maybe. I don't know.
Offered him 120 million.
I don't know.
You really don't think he would have? I don't know.
I think
Robin made the decision.
From a cap perspective, in terms of having the assets and having this here versus the little dance that they've had to do here, yeah, you would have gone into the tax. It would have been expensive. But having Gordon here would have just been one box you didn't have to worry about anymore. You would have just been checked at that position. You knew going forward you'd have a solid core and you didn't have to worry about
it. You don't have to trade any picks, so you can just keep picking young guys and try that.
You keep picking young guys, see if you hit a lottery thing, or you could potentially package and try to sell off Kemba and see if you can get out from under that contract because you knew you'd had kind of more in the fold. Now you can't because you really need to hold on to it because you're just not deep enough.